Who are your two guards, first team All-NBA?
Oh.
Anthony Edwards. If I had to go to Anthony Edwards and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Over Brunson?
Over Doncic?
And
Over Doncic?
Yeah, that would be second team.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah.
The mainstream media is at it again with Luka Doncic, folks. As you heard it straight from Kenny Smith's mouth, he didn't pick Luka as one of the top guards this season. I mean, Shai definitely deserves to be up there, but as good as Anthony Edwards has been this season, I think his efforts were not as good to kick Luka off the first-team All-NBA lineup. See, in terms of numbers alone, Luka has a clear edge over Edwards, as he basically averaged a 34-point triple-double throughout the season, while Ant-Man tallied just 26, 5, and 5. So I don't get where Kenny was coming from. Now, if his argument points to Luka's impact relative to team success, and the T-Wolves just won 6 more games than the Mavs, so again, this is not a compelling reason to put him over Luka. Not to discredit Anthony Edwards or anything, the dude just put up one, if not the best season of his career. But if we're going to take a look at the path these two guys went through heading into the postseason, there's no doubt that Luka took the harder route, which makes him far more valuable as a player. I mean, the Mavericks started slow and didn't have much help in the early parts of the season, while Ant was more fully equipped in terms of having pieces around him, with Cat playing as his Robin while guys like Gobert and McDaniels carried most of the dirty work on the defensive end. But despite this, Luka managed to keep the Mavs afloat the rest of the way while completely avoiding the play-in tournament, and after trading for Gafford and PJ Washington, things started to pick up for them. Then he clinched a playoff spot for the Mavs as a top 10 seed and got them to 50 wins by the end of the season. So with all of these factors put into play, I still really can't figure out why talking heads like Kenny Smith just blatantly cross off Luka time and time again, even though the receipts are already right in front of them. I mean, this was not the only time they've been totally biased against Luka. About a year ago, the media forced this crazy narrative down our throats, saying that the gun-slinging Ja Morant was the far better player than Luka on all fronts.
Two of the best in the league right now. We got Luka and we got Ja Morant. Who are you taking?
Luka is special, man. He's super special. He can do more, but I'm still going with Ja.
If I'm looking at that long list, I think a lot of people will say Luka because we know exactly who Luka Doncic is. Ever since he entered the league, he's averaged about 26, 8, and 8. We know Luka, but there's absolutely a case to be made for Ja Morant to be the most improved under 25 that we've seen the last few years.
I think that those first 4 guys that we saw on that list are very close: Tatum, Luka, Trey, and Ja. I think what separates them is, to me, Ja Morant is already a natural-born leader. Like, we're seeing that in real time. And that's no disrespect to any of those other guys, but I feel like he has taken the reins of that leadership role with this particular team, which doesn't have a lot of vets on it.
This is another take that didn't, and still doesn't make sense. And if you just scroll through the comment section, almost nobody is siding with these so-called analysts, which made them look like they're just doing this to start a fire to get some likes and views. Now, don't get me wrong, there's no doubt Ja rocked the league with his electrifying highlight reels and daredevil mentality in his first few seasons. And I have to admit, there was a time that he played like he was about to be the face of the league until the injuries and gun incidents surfaced on social media. But on the flip side, Luka is just a different beast than Ja. And even though the talking heads knocked off Luka by saying that Ja was more of a natural-born leader than him, we all know that this isn't true at all. I mean, in terms of leadership and making his teammates better, Luka definitely has an edge over Ja on this one, as he was already playing against grown men in his teenage years, and playing in a league that is way more competitive than the NCAA. And if they say Ja had those leadership qualities in him to begin with, why did he put his basketball career on the line and eventually leave his teammates hanging by doing stupid stuff with his guns while getting caught in the act not just once, but twice? I mean, is that the type of leader you want running your team? Now, speaking of which, ESPN once talked about who's the better player to build your team around between Luka and Ja. And according to Stephen A. Smith,
I'm going to go with Ja Morant at number 1. Because last time I checked, as spectacular as Luka is offensively, as spectacular as he may be in the postseason, Ja didn't fold in the postseason when he arrived. And on top of it all, he shows up on defense as well. I'm not saying that he's some stout defender, but he is significantly better than Luka. There's no question about it. So when I look at it from that perspective, I'm saying I see Ja giving you, for the most part, what Luka gives you offensively, and defensively, he gives you more.
So, since Stephen A couldn't get his point across if he based his arguments on stats alone, he threw another variable, saying that Ja didn't fold in the playoffs like the way Luka did. Now, upon checking their respective postseason records, you could tell right away that Stephen A is flat out lying. Ja only carried the Grizzlies as far as the Western Conference semifinals in 3 postseason appearances, while Luka had 4 playoff appearances and carried them to the West Finals back in the 2022 playoffs before bowing out against the Warriors. Now, in terms of not showing up for the playoffs, Stephen A must have forgotten that Luka was torching every team that he faced in the postseason by averaging not lower than 31 points a ball game in his first 3 seasons, which was highlighted with big-time performances in clutch time.
How long 3.7 seconds was?
It's the shot he works on time and time again. Rhythm, step back 3.
Despite the evidence, talking heads like Stephen A clearly steer away from facts when it comes to Luka. And his biased takes on him didn't just start recently. It goes all the way back to the time that he was about to get drafted. When asked about who should be the top pick of the 2018 NBA draft class, here's what he said.
Incredibly important that the Phoenix Suns don't mess this up. He's right there in Arizona. He's right down the road. You need a box office attraction who can flat out ball, who's a big boy, the size, the athleticism, and the combination of all of those things with his gifts that you simply can't teach. I don't give a damn about how this kid in Europe looks. I understand he's a 6'8" point guard. He's surreal. He'll probably be the number 2 overall pick. If it were anybody else, of course you take those things into consideration. But in Phoenix, considering the level of ineptitude that they have raked that city with in terms of its basketball product that they put out on the floor, DeAndre Ayton, there is nothing to think about. There is nothing to talk about. There is nothing to debate. There is absolutely nothing to consider. You have to take DeAndre Ayton with the number 1 overall pick because you are the Phoenix Suns.
In case you missed it, Stephen A just said in that clip that he doesn't care about this kid in Europe getting drafted ahead of Ayton. Well, that kid in Europe turned out to be the best in the bunch and became the Rookie of the Year of that draft class. Also, that kid in Europe has single-handedly turned the NBA upside down, dropping 73 points out of nowhere while having triple-doubles night after night and breaking a ton of NBA records along the way at just 25 years old. Now, if you think that Stephen A was the only one out there making absurd takes on Luka, just listen to what Kendrick Perkins has to say when the comparison pivoted to Trae Young.
It's Trae Young for me, okay? Because look, it's no limitations when it comes down with Trae Young. He's pulling up from half court. He's doing it all. But look, I'm not even here to discredit Luka. Yeah. I'm here to tell you about the greatness of Trae Young. And if I'm starting a franchise right now, I'm taking Ice Trae.
I mean, in a matter of 3 seconds, his colleagues knew the rest of his argument was just going to be full of bullcrap, as their facial reactions say it all. Like they knew that he's just purely hating on Luka, which they actually pointed out later on.
Barbershop right now. Perk, you know damn well you starting the team with Luka.
No, why are we doing
too
this?
much basketball.
I appreciate it.
Young,
it ain't no
before
damn
you take
well I'm
Luka
doing
Doncic,
nothing.
bro. Come on,
It
man.
ain't no damn well I'm doing nothing. Because no. Yeah, I know that. We also played on the same AAU team. We've been knowing each other since.
I mean, no disrespect to Trae Young, but I think we do all agree that Luka is the guy that you should build your franchise around. Although Trae has a bit of an edge in terms of range, Luka is way bigger than Trae and has more tools to work around with. He's the better playmaker, rebounder, and scorer than Trae. And you can even argue that Luka has a bit of Trae in him as well, as he can hit long-range step-back bombs as efficiently as Trae at this point of his career. Anyway, so after picking Trae over Luka, the trend of hate started to become really obvious for Perk, because a year ago, he did pick someone else yet again over Luka.
Would you rather have Devin Booker or Luka Doncic?
I mean, right now, Devin Booker went to the finals. Devin Booker went to the finals.
And Dallas just went to the conference finals last year. Devin Booker just went to the conference. Come on now.
Devin Booker went to the finals. Devin Booker went to the finals. Devin Booker team is at the top of the list.
When his Trae Young narrative didn't fly and get as much attention as he hoped it would, he suddenly jumped ship by picking Devin Booker. I mean, when that video dropped, I was thinking to myself, why does ESPN let this man talk on live TV? Saying a bunch of nonsense while still getting paid. I don't know if Perk is living under a rock, but in the 2022 playoffs, we all know how Luka single-handedly manhandled his boy Devin Booker, as well as the rest of the Suns in Game 7. I mean, in that particular game, Luka smoked Booker and his pals like chicken barbecue for 35 points on 12 of 19 shooting from the field. And he also grabbed 10 rebounds and dished out 4 assists for good measure. In other words, that's the game where Luka Doncic officially became Devin Booker's daddy.
The Phoenix Suns lost by 33 points in a Game 7. Got clowned at home. And while Devin Booker still got his whole career ahead of him, he just might need his whole career to get people to forget what occurred Sunday night. Get used to seeing this, Phoenix, because this image is going to haunt you, maybe forever.